Hello again. Day two. Probably not gonna keep track of these days all the time, but starting out early is kind of easier, right? Overall, I read a few passages today, and what I really want to talk about is Matthew 13, specifically the parable of the sower and pretty much the parable of the weeds as well, right? Um, all these things that simply in parables, like Jesus even putting it in a parable like this has, you know, improved my view of it. And I mean, I guess it keeps it a little open and up to interpretation, at least to an extent. It's pretty much direct in the idea of what the whole thought process is of it and everything. Overall, the parable of the sower, I'm going to read starting from Matthew 3. And he told them many things in parables, saying, a sower went out to sow. And as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil. But when the sun rose, they were scorched, and since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, some a hundredfold, some 60, some 30. He who has ears, let him hear. Now, verse 9 specifically, I've read a lot of Revelation, and for some reason that always pops up. He who hears, let him hear. And I still don't really, I mean, like, I understand, obviously, hear, you have ears, so hear, right? But I feel like there's a deeper meaning to it overall, right? But going over the parable in general, it already has a parable explained section in Matthew 13 as well. It's a pretty long chapter in general. Well, not really, but long enough, right? And just it's pretty much about, so for instance, right? Literally the way I interpreted it, at least from reading the explained part, is that the sower or the one sowed onto the barren ground or the rocky ground is what I meant. They are more received by faith, or other way around, they receive faith a lot more easier and just straight to the point, but they also don't have the stamina to hold on to that faith, right? And then the thorns, pretty much you hear the word, right? But the deceitfulness of riches choke the wood, like it says in verse 22, and it proves unfruitful, right? So you're pretty much just, it's your environment. That's how I perceive it. It's just straight up your environment. And if your environment doesn't reflect um, what you want, or not even what you want, but what Jesus is going to give you, and it reflects everything but Jesus, then how are you to receive Jesus, right? And even I have to work on some of that myself. I personally struggle with just music, um, the way I speak sometimes, even just coworkers and who I hang out with. But I'm slowly getting better at it. Yeah. And overall, obviously, the good soil, you're planted in firm foundation. You have the ability to put your roots into the ground, and you're actually able to stick there and fully just hold on to faith and grow in it, right? You're not just going to live for a little bit of time. You're actually going to keep growing and just keep fostering and growing stronger and stronger in the faith, so you can actually handle the winds of sin, right? And I think it's just a great parable in general, right? It's a little, thought for, food for thought, right? Going over the parable of weeds, reading from verse 24. He put another parable before them, saying, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seeds in his field. But while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared also. And the servants of the master of the house came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seeds in your field? How then does it have weeds? He said to them, an enemy has done this. So the servant said to him, then do you want us to go and gather them? But he said, no, lest in gathering the weeds you root up the wheat along with them. Let both grow together until the harvest, and at harvest time I will tell the reapers, gather the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. Right? And it also has an explain section, so y'all can go look at that too. But overall, just I think this one is probably my most favorite one in the chapter because I think I dabble in a little bit of what's it called, evangelism, a little bit. Just talking about overall Jesus coming and everything. That's why I read Revelations, one of the very first books that I read overall, just front to back, and actually analyzed and studied it. Not obviously, I'm not like a master or anything, but I definitely do think it was beneficial for me to study it the way I did. It was while I was on deployment, so it worked out. But anywho, pretty much what that talks about is you're planted by the Lord, right? You're planted. And then the thief of the night, Satan, comes and plants weeds into the harvest, right? And to the seeds. And pretty much it's saying the enemy just came to pretty much take away from your harvest. And either way, when it's harvest time, it's harvest time. They're going to start harvesting. The angels are going to come harvest the crops, and they're going to see the weeds in one section, which are the sinners, which we all are, but the ones that don't accept Christ, right, and believe that He died on the cross for our sins, right. So you got this, you got the unbelievers on one side, and then you have the believers on the other side. The weeds and the grain, right? And literally in there, God's like, burn the weeds, throw it into the fire. So it's just a wake up call, just how everything in the Bible is a wake up call for the most part. Well, not everything, but it all ends up leading to the same idea of, hey, bring Jesus into your heart, open that door, because if you don't, you'll probably burn. And I don't want anybody to burn. I really don't. But it's always going to be your choice. Your choice if you accept Jesus. Your choice if you pick up the Bible and read. Your choice to do the right thing. Your choice to follow Jesus. And I think that if you even attempt to make that choice, that you have that light in you, and you should keep striving to make that choice to fall into Jesus. All you have to do is believe that He will carry you. And that's all it takes, because He died for our sins. Anywho, that's all I got for today. Hope y'all liked it. I mean, if you didn't, you didn't. But give me feedback. Talk to me a little bit. We'll see where we go from there. Have a nice one.